Let's move on to main topic number 3. And our third main topic today gets submitted to us by Henry S., who writes, "Hey, John, love the show. Thank you so much, Henry. With most of the big movies that were coming out in July due to coronavirus, but most of them being pushed, I noticed another big movie that was coming in July that has not been delayed, Christopher Nolan's Tenet. Why haven't they moved? He said movies, he probably meant moved. Why haven't they moved their release date when all the other July films have? Do you think they're just waiting to see if the theaters will be open by July? What are your thoughts?" All right, thanks a lot for sending that in, man. And yeah, in the midst of all this stuff going on, and a lot of the movies moving out of July, we just talked about how Sony just moved a bunch of their films as well. Warner Brothers had moved some other films of theirs recently. But the one film that is still hanging in there is Tenet. Now, this, for a lot of people, is one of many, many people's, Rob's, most anticipated movie of the year. A lot of people consider this one of their most absolutely anticipated movies of the year. And they have not yet moved this film. And if you listen to Christopher Nolan, maybe they won't. Because Christopher Nolan is saying they're going to keep their release date. They're going to keep their release date. That's what he's saying. Now, that's great that he's saying that. That's wonderful. Good for him. Of course, ultimately, even though Christopher Nolan is one of those directors today that has a lot more sway and power than, say, most directors do, he, of course, will not be the one to call the shots about when and where they release this film. That will be WB. But as of right now, they are choosing to hold on to this release date. And I think there's a couple things here that play into that. Number one, they are getting some signs, and we'll talk about this more in our next story, but they are getting some signs from the industry that they may be open by then. I think the other thing is a monetary issue. They had started their marketing cycle. So they want to see, I think the only reason they haven't pulled the release date at this point is because they want to see if they can not make those advertising dollars they had already started spending go to waste. So I think you're looking at a project here that is going to, up until the very last moment that they can, they're going to hold on to that release date. They're going to hold on to it. That said, I don't think there's much chance that this movie comes out in July. I really don't. Even if the theaters are open by then, there is just no way that over the next month and a half, 2 months, that we're going to know for sure that the theaters are going to be open. And if we don't know for sure that those theaters are going to be open, Rob, you and I have talked about this a couple of times already. If they don't know for sure that the theaters are going to be open in July, they're not going to run out and spend another $70 million in marketing a July release date if it ends up they have to end up pushing it to December or February of next year or something like that. It's just too expensive. And when they realize that they can't start ramping up their real advertising and their marketing push for this thing, within the next 6 weeks, we're going to hear that they do push that date. So I listen, nothing's impossible. It is possible. Maybe they could hit that date. I just don't see a path to victory there for them, though, on this, because there's just no way within the next few weeks that they will know for sure that they'll be open, thus they can start spending the marketing dollars. So yeah, hey, bravo for the courage, holding on to that release date, believing you can do it and believing you can get it out. That's great. But I think when push comes to shove, they do move the date. So I don't know, Rob, how do you see this?
Well, it's to me, it's the two movies. It's Tenet and Top Gun 2 Maverick. They're both hanging in there. And I'm just like, I'm curious to see what happens. And I think, look, Paramount, in the case of Top Gun, Paramount needs a win, man.
Yeah,
Paramount they need a win, and I think they're going to hang on. And what movie? If there's any movie that can help America come out of this, it's Top Gun 2. If anybody can get people back into theaters, I can see a marketing campaign. But Tenet as well. I mean, this is a marquee title. This is one of the greatest, most exciting filmmakers currently working today. And I don't think everything Christopher Nolan does is perfect by any stretch of the imagination. I mean, I think Dark Knight Rises, as much as I like it, is kind of a mess. And I Interstellar, but even when he makes to what my mind is a mess, it's glorious. I saw Inception in the theater 8 times. I couldn't get enough of it. Tenet looks to be that kind of movie. if nothing else, everything that Christopher Nolan makes is so handsome. It's so classical. It's so. I mean, I just like sitting in the theater watching the images that he chooses to present to me, and I hope, I mean, I don't want to wait until 2021 to see it, and I just think we just have to wait and see. We've got to take this on a day by day, week by week, month by month basis, and these movies are sort of teetering on the edge. They're both July releases, aren't they? And we'll see what happens, but. I think we can't say for sure yet.
Yeah, I am pessimistic. I am pessimistic that this thing comes out in July. I mean, listen, hey, hope springs eternal. Wouldn't it be great if it does? And listen, you hit July, and let's say things break good for us. Let's say things break good. Wouldn't it be great to have the theaters open back up? And ladies and gentlemen, the newest Christopher Nolan film, Tenet. Like, that would be great. And so, yeah, hope springs eternal. You have to forgive me if I'm a little bit pessimistic that it's actually going to happen. Question here is, guys, what do you think about this? Do you think maybe they will be able to hold on to that date? Do you think, at some point they're going to have to just let that go? Jump down to the comment section below and let us know your thoughts. All right.